Hello and welcome everyone listening to Series 5, and this is Case by Case in 2020 Coaching Convos with me, Julie Crabb. And if you've already been listening to Case by Case, you will know that in this series I talk with guest coaches about reflections from their coaching practice. And important to say, I know I've said this before, but it's absolutely important to say that we uphold confidentiality in relation to our clients. It's a really fundamental element of professional coaching practice and of our ethics and our values as well. So we might share information about our clients, but it won't be attributable. I actually managed to say that word to any individual with whom either of us have worked, so all will be good. So case by case, it's basically about exploring what's been learned, and that might be from a single case study, or it might be from a particular technique or practice that my guest of the episode is wanting to explore. So this week, my guest is Sherry Bevan of Sherry Bevan Consulting. I think there's something quite refreshing about a business name that tells you who the business is run by. It's kind of authentic and connecting, so I really like that. And her LinkedIn profile will tell you that she helps sports leaders boost team productivity and engagement using the 5 success factors. Well, that begs a question right away, but we'll come back to that. So essentially, she's supporting the teams behind sports teams. So welcome, Sherry Bevan.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm so excited to be here.
Good. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well despite the strangest of British summers with, feeling freezing cold 1 minute and then hot and damp and humid the next.
Yes, and we were just saying, weren't we, before we came on, that it's a very palpable heat at the moment.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah. And Sherry, I feel like I need to be tip top of my game today because I know that you've run or had 3 of your own podcasts. I think they're called Confidential Conversations, On the Tipping Point, and Gender Pay Gap. So if people want to look at those, we think they're probably on Spotify. Is that correct?
Yes, although I think On the Tipping Point is no longer available to access anymore because
Okay,
I closed down the account. But that was,
right.
I have to say, one of my favorite podcasts ever to run. I did that with another coach, Sue Revel, who was amazing.
Oh, okay. What a shame it's not available.
Mm.
Okay. So, first, let's start with my infamous no question. It's like a 3-headed question. So that we were so not taught to practice in our coaching skills. But can we start, please, Sherry, by just briefly hearing how you became attracted to coaching? That's the first head. Where you are now and what your intentions are in the future. So let's start with how you got attracted to coaching.
Why did I get attracted to coaching? It's a very good question. I have come into this a bit upside down compared to most people. I decided in 2012 that I wanted to launch my own business because I was feeling stuck in the work that I was doing, in that my career wasn't very flexible, at least my time wasn't very flexible, and I had quite young children at the time. And so I decided to set up my own business. And quite honestly, when I set up that business, I didn't actually know what I was going to do, but I knew that I could coach. I didn't have a formal qualification at the time. There were a few different services that I could offer. And so I wrote out to everybody I knew saying, I'm setting up my own business. I worked in quite a niche in legal IT. These are the services I can offer. What would you like? And two clients or 2 people who became clients came back and said, "Oh, we quite like the sound of the coaching, please. Can we have some of that?" And so then I thought, I've got 2 real clients who are going to pay me real money. I'd better get a proper qualification. And that's how I started. So a bit back to front to most people, but I knew that I was a good coach because everybody would come to me for, you know, careers advice, or that people, I would often hear people say to me, "Oh my goodness, I didn't mean to tell you all of that. How did you get that out of me?" And I would say, "Well, I've just sat here and listened. I've asked you one question and then you've just given me all this other stuff." So I knew I had the skills and the ability, and yeah, that's how I started, a bit up to front compared to most people.
Brilliant. And you saying like where to start, it's just reminded me of something I've read. I think it's an Ezra Pound quote where he said something to the effect of, if you're going to make a stool, it doesn't matter which leg you start with, as long as as long as you've got the four legs and it's stable at the end, it's all good. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I think that, yeah, that I like that quote. That sounds a good one.
And so where are you now with your coaching then, Sherry?
Where am I now? So those first two clients that I worked with the team in the organization. They were both in law firms and both IT teams. And that's pretty much where I am now. I'm working with the teams in an organization. And I have been on this big journey, as I'm sure a lots of coaches are when they first start out, in that I've done what the gender pay gap podcast gives you an indication of what I was doing, and I did the confident conversations podcast. So a lot of the work that I've done has been working with women in confidence and women leadership and women development. But I very much felt about 18 months ago that I was a bit burnt out from dealing with that work, because I have been in doing that type of work for a long time. And so I decided I was going to pivot slightly and look at a different area. And that was when I had been on a long-term contract with a client and realized that, I love working with teams, I love working with groups of people, and decided to specialize, kind of go back to what I'd done at the start and work with teams again. And currently I still have some clients from technology and from the legal background and charities, because I've spent quite a bit of time working in the charity sector. But really, what I'm aiming to do now is work more and more with teams in the sports world, but not with the athletes directly, with the teams behind the team, which has always kind of been where I've been focusing my energy, really. Because even in the law firm, I wasn't working with the lawyers, I was working with the IT team and the practice or the business administration teams.
Mm, wow, that's really interesting. So it just shows what a very broad kind of set of industries that a coach can work across.
Yeah.
And could you just briefly tell us anything that you've got in the pipeline at the moment?
Oh, in the pipeline at the moment. Oh, a good question. So for me, what I'm loving about the work that I'm doing at the moment and the offerings that I have at the moment is, I work with teams, so that's amazing. And I'm working in the sports world, which just like, I'm like a child at Christmas. I get so excited every time somebody reaches out or I make a new connection. But what I'm really loving is being able to bring together and blend my love of outdoors and my love of nature and my love of walking with the team coaching. So, for example, if I run a team away day, I like to get people outside, and we know that being outside stimulates creativity and productivity. So I love running like walkshops. So they're not so they're kind of getting you outside and inspiring creativity and productivity by being outside of your normal work environment. So that's what I'm loving at the moment, is combining team coaching with being outdoors and getting stimulated and inspired by what's outside.
Mm. I love that word walk shops. I've not heard that before. That's amazing. And I totally agree with you about the being outside. Our Pilates teacher encouraged us to have a session outside today, not today, earlier this week. And it was interesting because it brought back lots of memories. Just lying there looking at the clouds reminded me of being at school and obviously having a few lazy moments lying on the football pitch or something, having a stare at the sky. It was lovely. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think it
as you
does
said
stimulate
that,
you.
yeah, sorry. Just as you said that, that brought back a memory for me of being at school and having, on warm summer days, they had this tiny green grassy square in the middle of the school, like a little courtyard area. And when you mentioned about being at school, that reminded me of how sometimes one of our teachers would, on a summer's day, we'd have a lesson outdoors, and it had a
Mm.
totally different feel to it.
Yes. Somehow felt a bit special, didn't it?
Mm,
Mm.
yes,
Good,
definitely.
good stuff. Okay, let's then move on to the specific case then, Sherry, which is what we're all about in series five. And I'm kind of interested to know what we can learn about in this situation. And I think we talked about potentially agile, but we'll see where your thinking is going. So as we're talking, I'm going to be listening out for the kind of learnings like your client and their role in the coaching process, the coaching skills and techniques that you've been using, anything that you're telling us about your special and personalized style as a coach, and yeah, maybe the session journey or the coaching program journey, just so that we can see what we can pull out. So yeah, tell us a bit about the case study that you have in mind.
Brilliant. Yes. So the case study I have in mind was working for a big national charity. This work's not confidential because it has been out in the public space as well. But I was working as the, I don't remember, I didn't really have a proper job title as such, but I was coordinating um, the work of 13 agile teams or squads, as we refer to them, who were working together on topics to help the charity identify what its new strategy was going to be for the next sort of 5 to 10 years. So I wasn't involved in the strategic, what that strategy was going to look like. But the charity decided they were going to use this methodology called open, gosh, I've forgotten what it's called, but basically where they're crowdsourcing the strategy. So they were going out to all of the individuals in the organization to say, hey, what do you think our new strategy should be? And but obviously we couldn't get, I think there was like 1,800 people work at this charity. We couldn't get every single person to contribute in lots and lots of detail. So what we did is we created these 13 teams from across the organization with people from all different parts of the organization, from fundraising to IT to communications to this was a cancer charity, so cancer nurses and things like that. And each squad was asked to look at a topic to do with the strategy. And these were they were kind of big, large, complex questions that we were being asked to look like, if we reimagined the charity from scratch, what would it look like?
Wow.
If we redeveloped patient care in the UK, what might that look like? So these were not questions that would take a day or two to come up with a solution. And we had 13 of these teams who were spending 3 months together, being taken out of their regular substantive role and working in these 13 squads, looking at a different aspect each. And it was so much fun. It was brilliant. It was doing work that we had never done before. It was doing work that was very exciting. It was very creative. It was taking people way outside of their comfort zone in many cases because, for example, we would have somebody from IT looking at what might we do to support people um, you know, I can't think what the correct terminology is, but people who are not going to survive their cancer treatment, people who might be have a terminal illness. So some of these questions were quite very different to what that person might be doing in their normal everyday job. But that was what was exciting about it because everybody involved felt like they had a very positive contribution to make that was going to make a real impact to people who are living with cancer. So it was very exciting from a coaching point of view. It was very exciting because we were doing something I'd never done before. Quite honestly, I didn't know if I could do this. And some of the organization didn't know if I could do this either, but we certainly proved them that yes, we can do this, and actually we can do it brilliantly. And it was a lot of testing and learning and adapting the process that we were using. You mentioned about the agile ways of working, and a lot of what we were doing was using agile ways of working. But my role really was to kind of coordinate the work that these people were doing and to train the coaches who were internal staff on the main, but to coach teach them how to coach, teach them the principles of agile ways of working, and to get everybody working in this way that's so very different for the organization. It's much faster, it's much more creative, it's much more inclusive, it's very non-hierarchical, and it was such an exciting time and full of energy and fun. It was really hard work, I won't deny that, but it meant that people loved it and everybody was clamoring to be on the, so we ran it in three phases, and the first phase we just ran three teams and we had some external support for those first three teams, and then we did all the rest on our own. But towards, halfway through, people were seeing how energized people were coming out of these sort of mini secondments and seeing how energized they were and how many amazing skills and tools they were bringing into their everyday work, and everybody wanted to be involved. It was a very exciting project to be part of and really tested my coaching skills in a way that and actually made me fall in love with coaching again and made me fall back in love with team coaching, because that was effectively what I was doing. I wasn't always the one doing the coaching for each individual team, but whenever there was somebody, if the coach was sick or on annual leave, or um, maybe they were a newer coach and needed a bit more support, so I was kind of dipping in and out of lots of the teams to coach, but also coaching the coaches in how to coach. So it was a fantastic opportunity to do something quite different than what I'd done before, and working at pace. I mean, I love to work at pace. I love innovation and creativity and excitement, but doing things in a different way. So taking people out of their comfort zone, but doing it in a very controlled way. And that was one of the things I can hear myself saying over and over again to people is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes, we're going to take you outside of your comfort zone. Yes, you're going to be looking at topics you've never looked at before. Yes, there's going to be vocabulary you're not familiar with. Yes, you're working with people you've never worked with before and didn't even know existed in the organization, but we're going to look after you while you do that.
Fantastic. Wow, thank you so much. That's given a really detailed picture of a massive project, but in the way that you described it, what's coming over is the energy that was involved in it all. And I have an immediate question actually. So, what you described this project as new and innovative and creative and stretching for everybody because people were working outside their normal roles. In what ways? You said it was kind of a bit of a I don't know, well, a very brave thing for both the organisation and you to take on the size and the complexity and the experimental nature of it. What skills did you deploy to make it such a success?
I think I brought I'm somebody who's quite self-confident. So if somebody says to me, we want to build a bridge over the River Nile, and if I think to myself, yes, I can see how that might be a possibility, I have that self-confidence to say yes to stuff that I don't yet know how to do.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I'm fairly calm and collected. And so I know that if there is an engineer who thinks it's possible, that I know that I can make it happen. And I think one of the big things is being able to sell that belief and confidence to other people by being calm and collected. And when something impossible looms up or an impossible problem rears its ugly head, which is always going to happen in big projects, is to not get panicked by it, but to stay calm and think, okay, yes, that's something we hadn't thought about, or that's a problem that we didn't realize might occur, but to be comfortable asking others for help and support. Okay, we've got this problem. What might what could we do? I think that was crucial, knowing I could ask for help and I think like I don't know, for lots of people traditionally, it's been quite difficult for me to ask for help because it's not that I don't think to ask for help. No, it is that I don't think to ask for help. It's not that I don't want to ask for help. It's just that I'm so task focused and it doesn't occur to me, oh, someone else might be able to help me. So I think that's definitely one of the skills that I strengthened while I was on that particular project. But I think really being clear on what we could do and what we know is absolutely possible, and believing in the power of coaching. Because as a coach, we know that our client might not yet have all the answers, but we know that by asking the right questions and creating that safe space and waiting and listening, we know that the right answer will happen. And I think those are some of the key skills. But also, I think as well, because I love a challenge and I love the creativity and the innovation, and it was something different. I know that I was able to bring people on that journey with me. And by being okay about saying, I've never done this before, but let's give it a go, that people thought that I wasn't, I think that people's perception of me was that, okay, so if we get really stuck, Sherry's going to say so. But at the moment, Sherry thinks, yes, I can see a path. I'm not quite sure where it is yet, but let's go for it. So I think those were some of the skills that I used.
Mm, brilliant. So that sense of innate confidence, a kind of strengthening of knowing that you can ask for or call on the expertise of people around you. But I love particularly that idea that, okay, you might not know something, but you know that you can know it. It can be learned. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, and also that idea about that you talked about that's part of our coaching practice too, that the answers aren't always immediately there. Sometimes we have to give it a bit of time, be patient, and allow the processing to happen. And as you said that, I was thinking, yeah, that's incredible. That takes some skill and some leadership to be able to allow to happen. Uh, I have a question around that. Did you get any pressure from the organisation, given it was such a massive task, to were they impatient to get things going? Would they allow that time for you?
We had very fixed deadlines, which moved, not always to my advantage. And there were times where I was like kind of pulling my hair out, thinking, you told me I had until January to recruit coaches, and now they're expected to start in December. That's so there were times where I guess the organization clearly believed that we could do what we were doing because the deadlines moved, and it was a challenging project. And that from that point of view, I found out afterwards that there were some people who didn't think we were capable of running it all internally ourselves. Um, but that my direct line manager had absolute faith and trust in me, and he believed, because obviously he knew me a lot better, he believed that I would be able to make this happen. But I think by the end of it, the people who were like the non-believers, if you like, were fully on board with everything that we were doing and were blown away with the results that we were getting. Now, I wasn't the one getting the results. I was coaching the coaches and coaching the teams, but the teams themselves, because we developed such a strong psychological safety in the team, and that was very intentional to build and nurture that safety. So it meant that everybody's voice in the room got heard, and that we really focused on making the teams inclusive and accessible. And that meant that at the end of it they got a much better result, like way better result than any of us had even in our wildest dreams. The the what came out of those strategy teams was just incredible and just blew everybody's minds away. And the fact that it was very visible in the organization, because we had like the top directors, the chief executive was coming along to the demos that we were doing at the end of every sprint. So the work that we were doing was very visible, but I didn't really focus on that because I just thought, I know we're going to get good results because we're using coaching skills. And I know that agile ways of working are are perfectly suited to doing work that's creative and innovative. So it just worked. We knew it would work. I knew it would work, even though at times I had doubts because of the timelines that kept shifting. But yes, we just knew it would work.
Fantastic. What an amazing legacy as well that you've left for that organization, or you and the people that you worked with have left for that organization, not just in the product of that massive project that you did, but also in introducing a very I can't say it, innovative and kind of dynamically evolving process to achieve it too. Quite a
Yes,
thing.
absolutely. And actually, one of the things that I feel most proud of that whole project is a few of the people that were in the different squads have, I've stayed in touch with quite a few of them, and quite a few of them since have gone on to do a formal agile practitioner certification because they love that approach and they love those ways of working. So every time one of them says, "Oh, I've got my certificate," I think, "Oh my goodness, that's amazing," because that means that really is going to carry on living in that organization or whatever organization they might go on to work for in the future.
Yes. Yeah, that makes good sense. And yeah, it it continues, doesn't it? The outcome continues in different ways. So so for people listening, Sherry, could you just give us a couple of examples of how you used your coaching style within the project? Because I can hear there are layers to it, that you coached and trained coaches who then coached the teams. Give us just a flavour, an example of how that worked.
Oh, I think for me, one of the things that I really found really, really helpful was doing regular check-ins with so we had separate ones for the coaches and the coaches would do their ones with their individual teams. And the check-ins became a really crucial tool because it was a way of it was only like a 15-minute thing, but it was an opportunity at the start of every day. Um, Not all teams did them daily. The coaching team, I think we did them every like 3 days out of 5. But it was just a way of connecting in with each other so that if somebody did have a problem or a question that didn't feel big enough to send an email or to bring it to the coaching group, but it just meant that you had these regular touch-ins, personal connections with people, and we wouldn't necessarily talk about work stuff, but we would do things like fun things. So, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? Or if you could pick and go anywhere in the world next weekend, where would you go? So just kind of like those little tiny personal insights to individuals as people and not just as their job title. So we got to know people as people and not, you know, service desk analyst or, you know, mass fundraising manager. We got to know them as individuals. And we very much tried to not talk about job titles. I mean, some of the people that I worked quite closely with, and because I was new to the organization at the time, they were just people to me. They were just another member of the squad because I started off in one of the squads myself. And then I found out actually this person's quite very senior in the organization, but I didn't know that. And so I just treated him, so I remember one day in the corridor going up to this one particular person and saying, "Hi, how are you? And how's the cat or how are the kids?" And other people around me said, "Oh, I didn't know you knew him. How did you get to know him?" And I said, "Well, he's in my squad." And then I realized he's actually quite senior. So I think those kind of sort of mini check-ins, those mini personal touch points were really important. Um, and I think more coaching skills wise, it's the noticing or the hearing what's not being said
Mm.
because you can read so much from what's going on from somebody's body language or from what they're saying or not saying. And I think just being like really aware of that individual, what their normal behavior is like, what their normal communication is like, so that when something's slightly off, that you can tell that. And I guess for me as a coach, trusting my instincts and my intuition quite a bit. And I think defining how intuition works is quite tricky, but I think for me it would have been subtle shifts in a person's demeanor, subtle shifts in the way they're talking, maybe noticing that the gaps in conversation are longer than usual or shorter than usual, or that they're talking much more quickly than usual or very slowly. So And all of those, I think, feed into you using your intuition and your gut instincts. But I think it comes because you're not consciously noticing, but you're noticing all those tiny little details that together add up to give you a bigger picture of what's going on.
Mm. Yeah. Gosh, I'm just sitting here thinking I'm about to attempt to summarize what I've learnt from the project, and it's massive. But yeah, I'm just going to pause us there so I can just apply what I thought was quite a simple skill that all coaches have got to learn as part of their practice of summarizing. Um, so yeah, let me just see what immediately comes to my mind about what you've said. But I have to say, Sherry, you've really given an amazing picture of this incredible project, which is so multifaceted and demonstrates so much about leadership, authenticity, communication, relationship, creativity, innovativeness, if that's a word. Yeah, it's a phenomenal case study to choose to bring, actually. And I think if we'd had more time, we could have unpacked it even further. But the things that are striking me very much is I'm hearing a lot about how much you've influenced by the person that you are and who you know yourself to be, and your trust in yourself and your trust in the process, especially your coaching skills and the coaching process. That's really something that's landed very strongly with me. It comes across to me very strongly. Is there anything else that you would add?
Oh, but it's interesting you say about that because one of my other mottos that I was saying all of the time to the coaches and the teams themselves was trust in the process. Even though you can't understand why this tool is going to help you get to a clearer answer, even though you don't understand why you're researching this or why you're doing this, trust in the process. And I would say that all of the time because as coaches, we know that coaching works. And as an agile practitioner, I know that agile ways of working work. So, yeah, trusting the process was another one of my regular mantras while I worked there. And it is, and it's always been and I think that's true of any coach. If you trust in the process, good things will happen.
Yes, I think that mantra sits very nicely alongside your previous one of, you know, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And as you're talking about it, it reminds me of times when I have experimented with things with clients and thought, that didn't land so well, only to find that a little while later, have, with that, whatever we've done being processed in that person's mind, something else appears out of it that you just hadn't expected. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't, just experiment, see what emerges, expect good stuff to emerge, and it invariably does. Yeah, good
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah. Any if anybody's thinking about group coaching, Sherry, do you have three top tips that you give them about your approach and
Three top
recommendations for
tips.
approach?
I think if you're thinking about group coaching, just do it because it's so powerful. And I think there's definitely a difference between team coaching and group coaching. And really what I was doing at that charity was group coaching to a certain extent, but they became a team. So it kind of evolved from group coaching to team coaching. I think if you're thinking about it, just do it, experiment, trust in the process and just give it a go because you never know what's going to come out of it. And if you love it, you found something fantastic. If you don't like it, or if it doesn't work for everybody in the team, well, you've tried something new and you've been brave and tried something new. And I think my other top tips would be I think for group or team coaching to work well, it is about being intentional about creating that psychological safety
Mm,
and not just, it's not enough to say this is a safe space. You have to be intentional about creating that safe space because safe space doesn't just happen. It might look like it just happens, but there's generally somebody being careful about how they've designed the space. And of course, sometimes some people, lots of people, I'm sure, are doing it intuitively and they haven't designed it. It's just happened because they're doing the things that they feel are right. And I think the other thing would be to I don't know, if you want thinking about giving it a go, come and talk to me. I mean, that's my top tip. Come and
Mm.
talk to me because I've done loads of it in lots of different organizations. I can tell you the pros and cons. So yeah, come and talk to me. That'd be my top tip.
That's a great tip. Yeah, that's a great tip. You talk about psychological space, made me think, yeah, if I think back to all you've said about your project, there was a lot there was about experimentation, stepping outside comfort zone, embracing massive change. You definitely need some boundaries and some comfort sort of parameters around that. Yeah, a safe place to work. Brilliant. So we're running up to the edge of our time, sadly, today, Sherry. So thank you so much for guesting on Case by Case Series 5 of 2020 Coaching Convos. Just one thing before we go, you're probably of an age to remember Columbo, the just one thing. Please tell us how you can be contacted, especially if people want to follow up on those tips, and any upcoming projects that you've got that you want to mention that you didn't earlier.
So best place to contact me is on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn or on my website, www.sherrybevan.co.uk. I think there's only one Sherry Bevan on LinkedIn, which makes it nice and easy for me. And projects that I'm working on at the moment, well, we're recording this in mid-July. So at the moment, I'm looking ahead to team away days for September, October time. Obviously, there are some organisations that organise them at the last minute, and I welcome those as well. But that's pretty much what I'm working on at the moment. And rather than necessarily selling an organisation a whole team away day facilitated by me, I'm encouraging them to do a team workshop as part of that, and then I draw in some of the innovation and creativity tools that I have so that they can do something different, do it outside, and come away with something creative and innovative as a real outcome from the team away day. Because sometimes team away days can be a bit boring and a bit stuffy, and I like to do something a bit different.
Mm-hmm. That's certainly come across, Sherry. So thank you so much, Sherry Bevan of the one and only Sherry Bevan Consulting. It's been so great to hear and share your reflections on your coaching practice. And thank you to listeners and watchers. If you like what you see and hear, please like, subscribe and share, and tell me what you want to hear more of on 2020 Coaching Convos with me, Julie Crabb. Till next time.